Caleb.
Into the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. There's a few safety reminders. We do ask that you please remain seated at all times, keeping your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the truck. This includes when we are moving and when we are stopped as well. But please take any pictures that you'd like, as this is a photo safari. We just recommend putting your camera in a sport or action setting, as we cannot stop for every animal, and some animals are a little more active than
Monkeys.
others. And speaking of the animals, everyone that we're going to be seeing are wild, so please no calling out to them or making any types of sound effects, such as whistling or kissing sounds, as we want to respect all the animals that call to reserve their home. But it looks like we are getting that final clearance from the warden, so once again, Twin Day, here we go, off into the Little Aturi Forest. Yep. Now what you're going to notice about the forest is that it will be filled with some heavy and dense vegetation, which a lot of the animals like to use as camouflage. So always keep your eyes on the bushes, as you never know who's going to be staring right back at us here. Our friends are really good at that game of hide and seek, but actually, coming up around the corner, take a look on top of the hill to the right-hand side there, as there will be an okapi just getting some food by the tree. Now, of course, with those striped legs, the okapis do resemble the zebra. However, they are the only living relative of a giraffe. Like a giraffe, the male okapis grow the ossicones on their head, which are the little bumps, and they have a prehensile tongue, giving them easier access to grab leaves from trees and bushes. But they were actually seen to be mythical creatures to the Western world up until about 1901. That's when they were first introduced to North America, and their popularity skyrocketed. They became a fan favorite for everyone who came out to see them. Now around the corner, it's going to be a little hard to see one of our other friends hiding up on top of the hills to the right. It is a feathered friend of ours, right behind some bushes, but you might get a quick glimpse of its black and white feathers, as this will be a saddle-billed stork just off to the right-hand side. One of the larger birds in Africa, usually standing about 5 feet tall. They also have a wingspan that stretches about 9 feet wide, enough to go from one end of the row to the other end of the row here on the truck. Off to the left-hand side in front of the rocks there, you're going to see the largest socializer of the forest napping around, as there is a black rhinoceros. So he looks just like a rock himself, laying down right in front of the pile. As you can see, he's a little darker than the rocks. But that is a very large animal, weighing about 3,000 pounds fully grown, and they can also charge up to speeds of about 35 miles per hour. But when it comes to the rhinos, there's no way to tell them apart by looking at their skin rather than looking at their mouth. So for example, with that black rhino, they have what's called a prehensile upper lip. That means the upper lip is pointed outwards, and it gives them easier access to grab leaves from bushes, as well as drink water, acting as their greatest utensil. Now it appears that a few more of our other forest friends are hiding right now, so it's going to be a little difficult to see them, but up on top of the hills to the left, you might find a couple bongo with the copper-colored coat and white stripes up there. And ironically enough, they are nicknamed the ghosts of the forest because they're rarely seen out in the wild. They know how to utilize that camouflage. But I said there are also going to be some more bongo and greater kudu down that pathway to the left in front of the bushes there. Now with those greater kudu in the light brown coats, they are one of the larger antelopes in Africa, usually weighing about 750 pounds, and they can also stand about 55 inches tall at the shoulder. But as we make our way out of the forest here, we are going to head on down towards the Safi River, home to some of the more aquatic animals in Africa. So of course we'll keep our eyes on the water at all times to see who we can find. And we're also going to listen out for something called a wee song. It's like a grunt and a snarl mixed together, and it's a sound that hippos make to communicate since they do not have the best of vision. But it looks like for the time being, some of our friends are going to be hiding right by some of the logs under the water over here, as they look like floating rocks. But there could be a couple now hippos. You'd see their eyes poking up above the water for the time being, off to the right there. And it also appears that there's going to be a whole bloat coming up to our left-hand side. As a bloat is what you call a group of hippos right by the islands. We'll pull up a little more right here, try to get a better look at the bloat. Again, they will stay under the water for most of the day just to help regulate their body temperature. Then they're going to come up about every 8 minutes or so, grab a breath of air, and then they will go right back down underneath the waters. It looks like some of them are getting ready to go find that food. But keeping a close eye on these hippos on the island will be the pink-backed pelican. They get a pink color on their feathers to signify mating season, and they're pretty social birds living in pods that range anywhere from 20 to 500. But going back to the hippos, I bet some of you are wondering what exactly do they eat that make them so large? Well, they are herbivores, meaning that they only eat plants, vegetables, and fruit. So they're going to use their large and sharp incisor teeth to cut down any vegetation that is in the area. But every now and then, hippos also have to use their teeth to defend themselves from certain types of predators that also call the river their home. Now we're going to try to keep an eye out for some predators right past the waterfalls over here, but as we look into the water, you're going to see that there really aren't any predators out and about right now. And that is because it is time for their yearly health checkup. So with those Nile crocodile, they are currently backstage right now, just getting checked up on, make sure that they are safe. And this is also one of the times where they get to eat as well. But don't worry, those crocodile are going to be healthy, and they're going to come back stronger in about a couple more weeks. But of course, that is going to be the Nile crocodile that usually call that area their home. And with those Nile crocodile, they're the largest of the crocodilian species, weighing about 500 pounds, and they grow anywhere between 16 and 20 feet in length. But it looks like up ahead here we are starting to change ecosystems, as there are going to be some newer trees and bushes going on up. And as we start to sneak our way around this corner over here, it looks like there is going to be a special and unique looking tree just coming around over to our right hand side. And this popping on up over to the right hand side here is known as the baobab, or upside down tree. Now don't worry, they are supposed to look that way. They will actually go leafless for about 9 months out of the entire year, and that's in order to conserve energy. But with that tree trunk, they can store upwards between 1,000 and 5,000 gallons of water in there just to remain living. But because of this, a lot of African tribes refer to it as the tree of life. I would assume that a tree would probably be a couple hundred years old right now, if not a little younger, just because it is a little smaller. But usually those trunks are pretty massive, as again, they can store large amounts of water in there. But with that tree, it does mean we are entering one of my favorite parts of the reserve here, and that is the savannah. Now, of course, with the savannah, it does play home to a couple million migratory animals every single year, and it will also act as a superhighway across Africa for many of our animal friends as well. And it looks like a few of our friends are making their way out towards the Serengeti grassland, so of course we're going to make a big U-turn and try to pull on up to them and get a much better look in just a little bit. But with the animals that migrate through this area, they act as that ground screw. So of course the giraffes eat the leaves from atop the trees, trimming them down, and then elephants bulldoze trees over to make walking paths, while antelope and gazelle act as lawnmowers and mow down all of the tall grass. But we'll take a look right past some of these hedges and bushes though to see if we can find some predators, and sure enough, underneath the tree to the left, a small pack of African wild dog resting away over here. Now, I think we might get a better look maybe on the other side of these rocks, but you can still see some of them just laying down in the shade for the time being. And with these wild dogs, they are not related to our pets back home. In fact, the domesticated dog and wolf have 5 toes, while these ones out here only have 4 toes. Now for the time being, they do seem pretty cute and calm, but they are one of the most successful pack hunters in Africa. They can chase their prey down to the point of exhaustion, and then at that point, the circle of life commences. So again, very dangerous, would not make good house pets for any one of us. Those are around the corner here, keeping the distance from the wild dogs behind the termite mound, are going to be some sable antelope just off to our left-hand side. The emblem for the Harambe Wildlife Reserve, and that's because of the sharp horns they have on their head, which acts as a deterrent for predators who jump on their backs. All it takes is one sharp poke from the horns, and the predators leave them alone, making them one of the best protected animals overall here in Africa. Now, it looks like up ahead here, we are going to see some of our newer friends out on the reserve, and for the longest time, we could not stop for these friends, but we did get clearance from the warden that we can stop just for a brief second around them, as it looks like the newest friend out here is also hanging out pretty close with its mom, as it's going to be a small dazzle of mountain zebra, and a dazzle is what you call a group of them, so again, very fancy. But we're going to pull up a little more right here, try to look down this little pathway off to the left, as there will be that baby hanging out with its adult, so I think we are going to get a really good look at the zebra over here, just around the corner. So you can really see how small he actually is. But of course, with that baby, he's only been out here for about a month now, so he's still just trying to get used to the area while we're trying to get used to him, and of course, again, he gets used to us as well. But as often asked, are the zebras black with white stripes or white with black stripes? And you can always tell by looking at the nose, since the nose is part of the skin. So of course with the zebra, or the mountain zebra here, they are black with white stripes. Now with these dirt mounds here, these are actually termite mounds off to our left and right hand side. So you see quite a few of them out and about. Now with those termite mounds, they're actually made up of dirt, water, and dung, the animal poop. And the termites roll that mixture into the tall towers, and then the sun usually make them hard as concrete. And with the termites, they also act as food for some of the animals as well, as we're going to get a really good look with the zebra here to the left. But out here on the Serengeti grasslands, looks like there are going to be quite a few of our other friends out and about, as we have some of all shapes and sizes out here, some smaller ones and some taller ones out and about. But it looks like we're going to get a really good look at some of these Maasai giraffe making their migratory moves, and even some white bearded wildebeest out and about over here as well. But yeah, here are quite a few of our friends out on the Serengeti grasslands, and we'll get a really good look at a lot of those Maasai giraffe out there in the distance, including some younger giraffe. But I can say with confidence that they are some of the biggest babies on the planet out there. By that I mean they're born about 6 feet tall, and they can begin walking and running about an hour after birth. So in case there's danger in their area, they can escape with their towers. This adult right here is definitely enjoying its time, just trying to get some food from the side of this tree over here. Now they do have that pretty impressive tongue. It grows between 16 and 18 inches, and it's a dark shade of purple and black, and that's going to prevent it from getting sunburned, since they spend 20 hours a day eating and only 30 minutes a day sleeping. And that's because the other 3.5 hours of a giraffe's day are usually spent migrating to other safe places for them to find food, as well as get their power naps. Now there's a good possibility we might get a pretty good look at the rest of that tower in just a little while, as a tower is what you call a group of giraffe. But looking up ahead here, I don't think the giraffe knocked over these trees on both sides of the road. I think something bigger must have done the job. So of course we are going to keep a close eye out for those culprits that may be nearby. And I've also heard rumors of monkey business in the area. So we'll try to see if maybe we can also find some mandrill monkeys, as I think some of them are walking around in the back corner over here. So we're going to try to swing around and look in that back. But it appears that that culprit is also out and about off to the right, as we're trying to find some more of those mandrills hiding behind some of the trees and bushes over here. And they do blend on in perfectly with their surroundings, as they're going to keep on looking out for their food. But off to the right, there is that African elephant. And actually, because it is turning here, I think we might get a good peek at that elephant in just a moment to see which direction it's moving in. But we're going to actually come around some of these bushes right here, try to get another side profile of that elephant before it takes off running there. Now, because this elephant is actually by itself for the time being, good possibility that it is a male. Males are either kicked out of the herd or they leave the herd at about 15 years of age, and that's because they become too aggressive. So again, pretty good look at that elephant right there. Now when they are kicked out of their herd, they actually have one of two options. They can learn to live by themselves, becoming solitary like this one, or if they want to, they can go out and form a small bachelor herd, like a fraternity. So what we're going to try to do here is see if we can maybe find the herd of females that may or may not have kicked them out. But there is unfortunately some bad news for the elephants still out in the wild. Sadly, they are being poached for their tusks, which are made of ivory, and then the ivory are sold onto the black market and used as art pieces. And according to studies, on average, one elephant is poached every 15 minutes. That's about 96 a day hunted for the tusks, and they can become extinct during our lifetime. But with our help and the help of conservationists, we are slowly finding the poaching numbers, and we're trying our best to bring them down to the point where they're almost non-existent. That way we can save those beautiful creatures for generations to come.